In this presentation, we will discuss general capital assets acquired under lease agreement. First, we're going to talk about the government-wide level, thinking about the entity as a whole, and then go to the funds. When we're thinking about the government-wide level, we must recognize a lease liability and an intangible right to use lease asset. In other words, we're going to record this on the books as we typically would for a capitalized lease for a for-profit type of organization. You'll recall if we have a for-profit organization, we have a capital lease, we have an operating lease. When we think about a capital lease, we typically think of substance over form. Although it's in the form of a lease, we're going to put it on the books because in substance, it looks more like a purchase, and therefore we're going to record it more like a purchase. That's what we're doing on the government-wide level if we acquired capital assets with a lease, and therefore we're going to put the asset on the books, whatever the capital asset is, and then we'll put a liability on the books for the present value of the lease payments that are going to be paid in the future. In essence, putting it on the books as if we purchased the asset and then financed the asset. We put the asset on the books at the value of the asset, and then we're going to put the related financing, the liability that is owed in the future, on the books as well. What are we going to do then on the fund level? And this is how I would typically think of financial transactions. We want to think about the government-wide level. It's going to be closer to an accrual basis, or we'll be using an accrual basis. We're going to put it on the books at the government-wide level on an accrual basis, one that we're going to be more familiar with for-profit type of accounting. Then think about the other side, what's going to happen in terms of the fund accounting. What funds are affected? What's going to be happening with the fund accounting? What type of funds are we going to be using? When we think about the type of funds being used, are we using a modified accrual or accrual basis? Most of the funds, or the largest group of funds, including the governmental funds, will be using a modified accrual basis. So when we record the lease then on the fund accounting, if we're using a governmental type fund, such as a capital project fund or the general fund, it's going to be recorded as an expenditure of the period. So an expenditure is going to be related or similar to an expense. It's going to be on the temporary type of accounts, what would be similar to income statement type of accounts in a for-profit type of organization, those that would close out to what would be similar to the equity account in a for-profit type of organization. And this is going to happen because we're not going to put the asset on the books, because the fund accounting on the modified accrual basis doesn't record long-term assets. We're only recording the activity that is going to happen. It only has basically current assets. We're not going to record the liability on the books that we're doing in the government-wide level because, again, the fund on a modified accrual basis doesn't have long-term liabilities, and therefore we're basically recording the activity on the fund level. We're going to be recording it as an expenditure of the period.